Oh, wow, it cut out the white noise pretty nicely.
Welcome, folks. Welcome, welcome.
Good to see everybody.
Thanks so much for joining today. We're just going to give folks a minute or two to trickle in, but today we're going to be talking about resumes, how to write them, how to update them, so you really stand out for the role you want, whether it's at Amazon or outside of Amazon. And while we wait just another minute or so for folks to trickle in, let us know in the chat where you are dialing in from. Maybe Nushi, if we could see that next slide. Yeah, you can just let us know your name, although we see that. So you don't have to retype your name, what your role is at the moment, and where you're dialing in from. And a few other logistics that are good to know. So this session is being recorded. So you will all get the recording emailed to you afterwards. And we're also going to have a live Q&A at the end of the session. But if you have any questions during the session, please just drop them in the chat. And we'll aim to answer as many as we can while we're all together this afternoon or this morning, or depending on where you're dialing in from. Great. Welcome, welcome. Okay, we have a Florida, we have a California. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So my name is Katie Richards. I am the senior manager of coaching design at Pastream, which basically means I work very closely with our coaches and I sort of design the overall coaching experience that you all have participated in if you've met with a career coach as part of this operations leadership certificate. And I'm joined today by one of our fabulous career coaches who's really going to take the lead during this presentation, whose name is Nushi. Nushi, you want to introduce yourself briefly to the group?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Katie. Hi, everybody. My name's Nushi Avabandara. As Katie mentioned, I'm one of the career coaches at Pathstream. Outside of Pathstream, I'm also a recruiter, so really love being part of the team at Pathstream and kind of leveraging that experience in my work with some of my coachees who I do see in the chat. So thank you all for coming and looking forward to today's session.
Awesome. Thank you, Nushi. And also, I'm joined by also Jeannie and Alex, who are two other members of the Past Stream team. And you might see their names in the chat, or at some point later, they may jump off mute and help us out with an answer to a question or two. So that's the group. That's the group of us. Welcome. All right. So this session is all about resumes. We're really going to get a lot of really practical tools to you all for updating your resumes. And hopefully, this time on the call will be a time where you can maybe even make some headway on that. But we'll get into that in a minute. So, Nushi, if you want to jump to that next slide, that'd be great. Before we dive into resumes, I just wanted to highlight for the group that we actually have a lot of open roles. We are aware of many open roles at an external company called Ryder for a team lead position, which is sort of analogous to a process assistant position at Amazon. And I just wanted to surface this because there are a lot of these roles all over the country that are open at the moment. B, these roles tend to come and go from the market pretty quickly. And C, they don't require a resume to apply. So we want to help you get prepared with your resume today. But if you want to go ahead and get a jump start on applying to roles that don't require a resume, this team lead role at Ryder is a really, really, really great fit. So if there are any Ryder team lead roles open in your area, you will be getting emails from us. You maybe have already gotten some that say, hey, there's an open role in your area. And if you see that one or multiple of those open roles are team leads, just know you can go in and apply by answering like a series of questions. We've got a screenshot of the type of question on the right here. and you don't have to have a resume. So I would say if this job interests you in any way, just go for it. So much of the application process is a numbers game. And the more you can get out, meaning the more applications you can get out there that are really quickly aligned with when the job was posted, the more likely you'll be to progress in those hiring processes. So just wanted to shout that out before we deep dive into the resume world. Great. If you have any questions about that role or those emails you've been getting, feel free to pop those questions in the chat too, and I'll be able to answer them along the way. And now I'm going to transition over to Nushi to take it away in the world of resume updates.
Sorry, folks. Of course, I'm having a Zoom issue. Bear with me one moment.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for troubleshooting, Nushi. So while Nushi attempts to figure that out, I will just briefly talk over this slide. This is the plan for the day. So we're going to give you a really brief overview of some of our best practices for resume writing in general. And then we're really going to like jump in and focus on one, which is how do you actually tailor your resume to the job that you want? And then as we mentioned, we'll have that live Q&A, and it looks like Nushi, you're back.
Yes, I am. Thanks for
All right.
Katie.
You got it. It's all yours.
Awesome. So, the writer opportunity is a great one. Thanks for flagging that, Katie. Highly recommend everybody applies to that. As Katie mentioned, we are going to be covering best practices for resume writing today. And so some of those best practices in a nutshell are what you see here on the right-hand side of the screen. First and foremost, you should always be mindful of the job description. Always, always, always. As a recruiter on the other side receiving applications for potentially the wrong role, it happens all the time, of course. We are all very aggressively looking for new roles, and sometimes having different versions of a resume, it is inevitable that maybe there's a slip up and you submit the wrong one. So do your best to build in a step of the job application process where you double check that you're uploading the right file, and that the resume you're submitting is the right one. What do I mean by the right resume? Today we're going to go through exactly how to tailor your resume to job descriptions, either specifically by individual job description or for an industry or a common theme between different job descriptions that you're considering applying to. The method that we'll be covering will cover all of those scenarios, so excited to go over that shortly. The other thing that is important to keep in mind, you should always use simple formatting. Don't use pictures or graphics as it distracts from the information on the page, and actually also provides a pathway for more bias to creep into the hiring process, which is always preferable to minimize bias, whether it's positive or negative in hiring processes. Another tip we recommend is avoiding columns, as it can get really wordy very quickly, and kind of cloud the recruiter's judgment as they're reading through several hundred resumes a day. So just try to make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible, as minimalist as you can, and that should be a good rule of thumb. Make sure that as you're writing your bullet points under each job description that you're following number 3 here on the screen, make sure to include your responsibilities and the impact that you had specific to those responsibilities. The best way to do that is actually to follow something that you all are already familiar with through the OLC certificate that you completed or are still working on, which is the STAR method. The STAR method highlights the importance of including metrics and specific data points that would help the reader of your resume understand exactly how the magnitude of your contributions to the company. For example, talking about a 10% cost savings for the business that you're supporting versus a 40% cost savings is a big difference, and that would not have been possible for the reader to comprehend if those numbers weren't involved. While we understand that you might not always have metrics, especially for roles that are maybe further into the past, a rough estimation is totally fine. Recruiters, we appreciate anything and everything you can give us to help really paint a picture. So don't hesitate to do that. And as long as you're able to explain the logic behind the metrics that you share, whether they're estimates or actual metrics, that's totally fine, which is actually number 4. So yeah, moving on to number 5 here. When you are applying to internal roles, you should absolutely highlight relevant Amazon leadership principles. I've heard from quite a few coaches that customer obsession is a big one. I don't remember the exact wording, but having a high level of urgency and ownership over your work is also critical to Amazon and their leadership principles. So there are several stories you can tell in those bullet points in your resume, and your career coach would be a great resource for you to help use the right framing, the right terms, and add the correct amount of detail if you're having trouble writing some of those leadership principle aligned bullets. And then number 6, this is a very timeless rule: proofread, proofread, proofread. It's very easy for us to naturally overlook any typos or grammatical mistakes because humans actually are very good at adapting their informational losses. Our brains are so great at that. So this is actually a good opportunity to leverage AI or even just the standard spell check and grammar check in the Word doc software that you're using. We'll get into AI a little bit more later on this call, and we'll show you how to leverage AI to not only do the proofreading, but also extract exactly the keywords that you should use when you are optimizing your resume for a specific job description. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. If there's a role that you want to apply for, please go ahead and pull that up alongside your current resume in a separate tab and follow along. I will be using a resume for John Smith, who happens to work at a fulfillment center at Amazon, and we'll take that resume and personalize it to a couple of different roles. One role is the process assistant role at Amazon, and another role is at Ryder, actually, as the warehouse supervisor. So that being said, I'm going to start off by showing everybody the resume. So here's John Smith. John Smith clearly has been working very closely with us at PathStream. This is the exact template that recruiters strongly prefer. It's very clean. And as you can see, here is the experience he's had at Amazon since June 2023. As I'm reading through this, picked and packed customer orders and maintained high levels of accuracy. One thing that immediately I'm noticing is there are not too many metrics regarding what those high levels exactly were. Not to say that every role at Amazon has a metrics dashboard, but I believe problem solvers, you all should have a metrics dashboard if you log into your Amazon employee portal, and chances are pretty good that other roles might have that as well. So if you can pull those types of specific metrics, one way that this could have been stronger is replacing high levels of accuracy to maybe something like maintained 100% accuracy in packaging orders, and that is very specific because we're talking about packaging orders specifically, and I guess this is also a little bit redundant. Maintained 100% accuracy, we can leave it there. So aside from adding metrics throughout the bullet points here, there is further personalizing we could do for this resume based on the roles that John is interested in. As we said a little bit earlier, we're looking at the process assistant role at Amazon. We're also looking at this warehouse supervisor role at Ryder. So let's start off by reading through the process assistant role. And essentially what you'll be doing here is taking a main look outside of the company description, which I'm sure you all are very familiar with. You're at Amazon every day. They are usually some sentences about the role specifically. And so the role specifically here mentions that our operations workflow has three major components. First mile, where the product is housed and ready for the order. Middle mile, where the order is hauled to your area. And last mile, where when the product is delivered to the customer's door. All workflows have slight building variations, but one thing is constant: our vision and dedication to the customer. Surprise, surprise. But this is something that we should keep in mind as we continue reading this job description. Whoever wrote this job description did a great job of highlighting the most important values in this paragraph, which are Amazon's vision and customer obsession. Great. Putting that in our pocket here, I will go ahead and highlight this because it is important for us to keep in mind, and I will keep going. Key job responsibilities: supporting, mentoring, and motivating others, managing safety, quality, productivity, and customer delivery promises. This is interesting. Customer delivery promises. They use the word promise. That's very strong language. This is tying into what we already highlighted above, which is dedication to the customer. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that in yellow again. Collaborate with all support teams, including safety, operations, integration, loss prevention, human resources, to develop plans to meet business objectives. So meeting business objectives, we all know Amazon is very dedicated to their KPIs and tracking those carefully, which actually ties in pretty well with the vision of the company. So since that's something we highlighted above, I'll go ahead and highlight that here as well. And let's see what else we have here. Basic qualifications: 1+ years of Microsoft Office products and application experience. So this is the part where we're looking less at company values and more so hard skills. I will go ahead and highlight 1+ years of Microsoft Office because this is a hard requirement. And this is less tied into the values. This is more so, are you qualified for the day-to-day of the job? So for that reason, I'll use a different color to highlight. We'll go with green. High school or equivalent, I think that got cut off. They probably meant high school diploma or equivalent, which is another hard skill and requirement. So let's also highlight that in green. Flexible schedule, shift, work area, including weekends, nights, and or holidays. I believe this is a very common bullet point on most Amazon job descriptions. And so we'll not highlight that because chances are pretty good that you're doing that already. Can lift up to 49 pounds, standing and walking shifts, etc. A lot of physical ability requirements. This is not something that you should necessarily disclose on your resume, whether you are or are not able to meet this requirement, because there's usually a separate built-in question in the application process, in addition to submitting your resume, that will ask you if you're able to meet this requirement, and that would be the appropriate place to talk about your physical abilities. But it's not like you have to include your gym numbers in your resume. You will be fine just answering that one question outside of your resume. Working 40 hours a week and overtime is required. That's more of a flexibility and scheduling thing. Are 18 years of age or older. This is also a typically protected identity class when it comes to job searches. And so, which is similar to the physical ability bullet point that we just covered. So this is something that they will ask you as part of those follow-up questions after you send in your after you upload your resume. Before you press submit, it will ask you about your age just to make sure. And all of this data is protected by EEOC standards. Totally up to you if you disclose or not. But yes, that is something they will ask for outside of your resume. So we'll leave that out here. Preferred qualifications. So these are what we call nice to haves as recruiters. They're not absolutely mandatory hard skills. This will help you stand out from other applicants. And so for this reason, if you have any of these, you absolutely should put them higher on your resume in terms of higher in the bullet points for each of your roles in comparison to just the core basic qualifications that we've highlighted up here in green. So the first preferred qualification is 1+ year of leadership experience directly managing others. I'm going to go ahead and actually highlight this entire thing, and we're going to pick bright blue cyan here because these are preferred qualifications that we'd like to put at the top of each role's bullet points. So picking a brighter color so it's more top of mind for me. 1+ year working in a similar environment, ideally manufacturing, distribution, warehousing, or retail. So I will highlight this as well in the same blue color. Experience with performance metrics and lean process improvement. Again, going back to Amazon's vision of just very strong efficiency and always optimizing to have higher productivity. So I will highlight that, actually not in blue, but yellow, because that ties back into the very first sentence we had read up here. So you're starting to see that the values that are super important to this role are actually embedded all throughout the job description, which is important. We'll talk about that more later. Excellent written and verbal communication and interpersonal skills to coach, train, and assist team members. So I think that every recruiter views this differently. If you are running out of space on your resume, I would say that it's better to not include any bullets about your written and verbal communication skills, because really your written and verbal communication skills are conveyed by the quality of your resume. So it's almost redundant to take up more space on your resume by talking about this, unless you have the space. If you have the space and you have a great story about leveraging your written and verbal communication skills at work in a way that improved your metrics, and you can write a well-rounded bullet point on your resume about that, go for it. But otherwise, I would recommend to let your interview process and kind of outreach and all the things that we teach you as a PathStream coach shine through to exemplify this skill. So that being said, the rest of this is legal disclaimers and information about the hourly rate. So not necessarily the requirements here. So now looking at all the things that we've highlighted, again, we see the values are vision and customer dedication. Vision being, extreme productivity. We see them talking about customer delivery promises, meeting objectives, performance metrics, and lean process improvement. Even though we recommended the STAR method because Amazon prefers the STAR method, really every company is keen on KPIs and meeting objectives and having positive customer service. So it's not too difficult to take these specific values, weave them into a resume that could serve any role in the manufacturing, distribution, warehouse, retail, etc. space, because these are things any company would really highly value. So what we're going to do here is head back to John Smith's resume, and we are going to revisit the summary section and see if the values of customer obsession and metrics and meeting metrics are supported by what's written in these few sentences here, it looks like. So John Smith had written highly motivated Amazon Fulfillment Center associate with a background in customer service and operational support, equipped with communication, inventory management, and process improvement skills, eager to contribute to operational excellence and customer satisfaction. This is actually great. And I really appreciate how concise it is. I think Amazon is a very popular company for many folks to apply to for a variety of different reasons. And so, in this scenario, if John was only applying to Amazon, I think this is great. Amazon highly values efficiency, so this is probably not the best place to add flowery language. Now, let's say you had a different company that you were maybe aware their values were slightly different, and maybe they prioritized efficiency a little bit less, and for whatever reason you picked up from the job description or reading through the company website or the company's LinkedIn page, what have you, that they're very keen on having employees represent their stories and their personal backgrounds at work. I think that's kind of more of an opportunity to include flowery language here and really kind of write more of a, like with a novel almost type of voice rather than this extreme efficiency that we see in these three sentences. But since we're talking about Amazon, let's leave that as is and keep going. So we talked about customer service and the metrics in the summary. Now let's check that here in the skills section as well. Warehouse operations, inventory management, process improvement, root cause analysis, written and verbal communication, safety compliance, team development, training, and coaching. So one thing that I would add here, honestly, is exactly what we know Amazon values at the very front, which is customer obsession. And also, this kind of goes hand in hand with warehouse operations, but to make it crystal clear for the recruiter, if John was actively tracking metrics at work as part of his day-to-day or even his week-to-week, right? Just an ongoing part of his regular responsibilities. You could even add here metrics tracking, and that's not very far-fetched. That is a day-to-day part of warehouse operations, making sure you're meeting deadlines, making sure that accuracy is high and that the right number of units per hour is going out, etc. So by adding these two values that we know Amazon really highly values specifically for the process assistant role, because we went through it line by line and very carefully considered what pieces were repeated throughout the job description, that's why I want to put them at the front here. And we don't necessarily have to change the others, and we can just keep trucking along. So here, picked and packed customer orders, maintained 100% accuracy, collaborated with the team to meet daily throughput targets without safety incidents, which is great that he mentioned the team, since that was also one of these basic qualifications here. Where was it? Key job responsibilities. The very first bullet was support, mentor, and motivate others. So I'm glad that he included that. Trained new hires as a learning ambassador. That is also something that would fall under supporting your colleagues. Used Amazon's internal software to evaluate and ensure the quality of products, ensuring high customer satisfaction. This is great, ties into customer obsession and also metrics 2 in 1, because customer satisfaction, which I believe is called Net Promoter Score, is actually marrying those two values that Amazon repeats throughout the process assistant job description. So great. I think the one thing I would add here is if there was a title they could use for exactly which one of Amazon's internal software. For example, if it was Salesforce, just writing Salesforce or in parentheses, whatever it might be, being very specific is very helpful in a job description. And then if we move on to the restaurant that he was managing back in 2019, he mentions he ran the day-to-day of a busy restaurant, making sure every part of the restaurant was running smoothly and guests were taken care of. which does show a strong attention to customer satisfaction. So that's great. We'll leave that as is. Restaurants being in the hospitality industry, I'm not sure the size of the restaurant that John worked at. For example, if it was a mom and pop shop, maybe they weren't tracking metrics as closely as maybe, I don't know, Chili's might, for example, given Chili's is a large franchise with a lot of resources and et cetera, what have you. But anytime we could add metrics in here would be helpful. So this would be a question for John if he has anything he could share around how smoothly the restaurant was running and how happy guests were. Maybe by sharing the average amount of tips on a weekly basis or something like that, which is, again, something your career coach can help you get creative with. Train new servers, kitchen staff, etc., on how we do things, answered questions, help people get better at their jobs, shows strong team orientation. I would leave that there. Made the weekly schedule and adjusted it based on how busy we expected it to be. That is also fine as is. It shows leadership, that he was in charge of scheduling, taking care of food supplies and ordering, working with vendors to avoid running out of items, and not wasting items as well. That's also good. I think that in general, this section of his resume was written with a much more casual tone than the Amazon section was. And why I say casual specifically is using contractions, didn't, instead of writing out did not, is one of the reasons why I mentioned that. So that's a small and easy fix, which again, we'll be talking about AI in just a second here. And so that's something we can leverage AI to make more, what's the word I'm looking for, consistent throughout the resume instead of sounding like two completely different people talking for the Amazon section versus the restaurant section. This bullet here says he paid attention to customer reviews and what people said in person, made changes to service when we saw the same complaints come up. Valid thing to add to his resume, and also think it could be written better in a way that doesn't make it seem like revisions were only made in a reactive manner. Ideally, companies, all companies, Amazon or otherwise, are looking for more proactive strategies so that essentially you can get ahead of problems before customers become dissatisfied. So that's something that we'll revisit. Kept the restaurant up to health and safety standards, so we were ready for inspections. That's fine. Again, would wordsmith that a little bit using AI. He did include the teammate aspect. He did include the customer service aspect several times in this manager section of the restaurant experience that he had. The one thing he didn't really add too much of was metrics. And again, depending on if those metrics were available, that is kind of where we would have John chat with his coach to figure out what makes sense to add in here. So there isn't too much that he is missing in terms of the soft skills of, the company values of vision and dedication to the customer. What he is missing, I don't think we saw Microsoft Office on here. So Microsoft Office is one of those basic qualifications. And if it's not written on this resume, then there's a very high chance that the applicant tracking system that Amazon uses will automatically weed him out. So, of course, assuming that John has actually used Microsoft Office in the past, I would go ahead and add Microsoft Office Suite here under the skills section. And if there is a specific role where he was using Microsoft Office Suite regularly, I would add that in to wherever it's relevant. So here's an example following the format that we recommend at PathStream. So maybe John was using Microsoft Word to create weekly menus, and so we could talk about that here. So we could say something like leveraged Microsoft Word to create aesthetically pleasing and clear weekly menus for patrons. So So that way we are including that hard skill not only in the skills section at the top, but also here at the bottom. Why is it important to put it in both places? Essentially, how most applicant tracking systems work is that they look for keywords, and based on the number of times that keyword is repeated, the higher your profile will be when they actually start looking through job applications manually. It's not an AI, it's actually the same ranking mechanism that search engines like Google, Yahoo, and Bing use. So it's actually very old, tried and true technology. Nothing to do with AI, and it very much still is a human who will ultimately read your resume. But you want to make sure that anytime you've used a skill that is a hard skill, like using a specific platform, again, that you include that in your skills section as well as wherever it's relevant in your day-to-day bullets here in the body of your resume. Other than that, the other hard qualification was high school or equivalent diploma, and looks like we have a placeholder for John because he probably did go to high school and complete his degree. So would leave that up to John to go ahead and fill out that information here and make sure it's truly on there because it is a hard requirement. Now we look into preferred qualifications, 1+ years of leadership experience directly managing others, and he very much did that at the restaurant he was at, given that he was training new servers, hosts, bartenders, etc. on how to do their jobs essentially. So what I would do to align this more closely with the leadership experience and managing others is maybe change this word from trained to managed the onboarding of new servers, et cetera, and helped people get better at their jobs. This word managed instead of training shows that he was responsible in a manager capacity for getting everybody up to speed, which is stronger language than saying that, maybe John had taught them these skills because, he's I guess, similar to like a learning and development ambassador at Amazon, which is very different from having a leadership role at Amazon, right? So it's important to make that distinction wherever possible. And then 1+ year of working in a like environment, we've already got that covered given that he has been at Amazon for almost 3 years now. So we'll go ahead and move on from that. And as of this moment, this resume is fully optimized for the process assistant job description from Amazon. That being said, I wanted to show you all how you can optimize for other companies as well. And still use the same copy of your resume. So let's read about Ryder together and see what type of values they hold near and dear to their hearts and see if there's overlap with the values we already identified in that process assistant job description. So let's go through this. We are immediately hiring a warehouse supervisor in Ohio for our supply chain solutions division. Apply here today. Learn about the position. All right. So here's the details about the pay. Sounds like a great opportunity. Details about the schedule, and then some sentences here about the company. When Fortune 500 businesses and new startups need supply chain solutions, they look to our industry-leading logistics experts. At Ryder, there is more to being a supply chain professional than working on some of the nation's biggest brands. We make sure you are also getting the diverse experience, advancement opportunities, all from an industry-leading Fortune 500 company. Very interesting. So this blurb here is a lot more about the employee and what you would get out of joining them than what Amazon's was geared towards, which Amazon's big focus was, again, hitting metrics and having customer obsession. So let's see, there's more details about their benefits, and now we'll get to the summary of the role. It's interesting that they put the benefits at the very top. It's actually very unusual on job descriptions to see that at the top. Most companies will put that at the bottom. So I think that alone kind of sends a signal about Ryder sets it apart from Amazon at the very least. Summary here of the role. Under the responsibility of the manager, warehouse supervisor is responsible to supervise, coordinate, and oversee logistics operations and provide coaching, development, and training to the staff members. Got it. So we will go ahead and highlight supervise. Supervising is a distinct skill, and we will actually make this a green color, similar to how we did on the job description, where we covered hard skills in green. I'm just trying to be consistent. Coordinating and overseeing the logistics operations and provide coaching. So we'll make this green as well. This is a hard requirement. Development and training to the staff members, also green. Successful candidate must be able to provide recommendations for improvements to the facility, equipment, machinery, and processes. That is very interesting. So we'll highlight this in green as well. They will be accountable that the staff is performing to standard and has to ensure that progress is made to achieve the business objectives. Accountability is huge. Accountable that the staff is performing. I will go ahead and highlight that just to keep it as short as I can. So this is a true leadership role where if your team isn't performing, you will be held accountable as their manager. Essential functions: supervise, coordinate, and oversee day-to-day logistics. Pausing here for a second, they actually did not write too much about Ryder as a company. They went straight into what they can do for you as a potential employee and what they're looking for in this role, which is really interesting. So just wanted to call that out, that it's very different from the Amazon job description. So I don't think that we'll have to change any of the values, since Ryder is not heavily accentuating their personal values or company values in finding the right fit for this warehouse supervisor role. So we continue going through here and we see this supervising, coordinating, and overseeing day-to-day logistics. We already highlighted that above, so I won't highlight it again. Well, we'll highlight it again because anytime they repeat something in a job description, that means it is very, very important to have in your resume. So this is now the second time we're seeing logistics operations, making a mental note of that. Plan and review in collaboration with the logistics manager, all logistical processes. So collaboration comes up here. I would highlight that. Establish work schedules and procedures and coordinate activities of the workers to ensure optimal shift and team logistics. So coordinating activities of workers, I will stop highlighting it here. There's a ton of information in this one compared to the Amazon job description, which really had about 6 bullet points max for each section. Meanwhile, Ryder's goes on and on and on. So this is actually a great opportunity for me to show you all how I would leverage AI to make this as streamlined for you as possible. I think at this point, you kind of get the idea. Reading through the job description very carefully is what we meant by being mindful of the job description and highlighting or taking notes if you aren't able to highlight on your laptop or other device. Exactly what themes are repeated over and over and over. For Amazon, it was metrics and it was customer satisfaction. Here they're talking about collaboration and logistical operations and coordinating employees who are your direct reports. So a little bit different than the process assistant role because the process assistants did not have direct reports. So let's go ahead and hop over to my go-to AI LLM, which is ChatGPT. You can use anything that you prefer. I've heard Claude is actually pretty good. And what I'm going to prompt here is, here are 2 job descriptions I would like to apply to. Give me recommendations on common themes between both job descriptions that I should add to the language of my resume and include information on exactly where I should incorporate the recommendations. And now what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy and paste this entire job description. So I'm going to label this job description number one. I pasted it and it's all the way at the bottom. Job description number two. And now we're going to grab the warehouse supervisor role here. Oh boy. And so the beauty of AI, it's going to take everything that I just talked about for the last 30 minutes or so, and it will give us a recommendation on how we can effectively cater our resume to both job descriptions in a matter of seconds. So here we go. Let's see what it has to say. Resume ready breakdown of common themes across both job descriptions, what language to add, and exactly where to incorporate each item. So your resume matches both Amazon and Writers, ATS, and recruiter expectations. This is perfect, exactly what I wanted it to do. So here are the recommendations. Both roles emphasize supervising frontline employees, coaching and mentoring teams, feedback, evaluations, corrective action, training and onboarding. So we will go ahead and use verbs like the one suggested here. And this is something that you can either do on your own and take a stab at if you feel comfortable, and then show it to your coach. Or if you're not really sure where to start with this, just book time with us and we're happy to help you pick exactly what goes where. And the recommendations it's giving here are pretty aligned with what we talked about. And if you even wanted to go a step further, what you could do is take this original prompt and instead of just including the job descriptions, you could also upload a copy of your resume, which you can always download here as a doc export. And now I'm going to build upon the existing prompt that I have and say, attached is a copy of my resume, make specific recommendations of what I should change given this additional context. I'm going to click attach. Oh no, it's going to force me to log in. But if I did log in, you could see that all you do is click this attach button and then upload the file that I just downloaded from Google Drive, and it will make even more specific recommendations for you on what you can do on your resume. The beauty of AI is that a lot of these tips and tricks in recruiting used to be strongly gate-kept, and now it's as simple as working with an LLM and prompting it as if it were just another chat room that you might encounter online. So that was the gist of what we wanted to cover with you all today, and wanted to save some time for Q&A as well. So we will go ahead and open it up in the chat in case anybody has questions.
I also just want to jump in and say thanks, Nushi, for doing that great and thorough talk through. And yeah, Gina, I think Nushi and I can both empathize with the statement that you just put in the chat that tailoring your resume for every job post seems pretty exhausting. Which is part of why Nushi wanted to show you how to tailor your resume for two roles actually at the same time. And also use AI to make it a little bit less burdensome on yourself and a little less time consuming.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The beauty of it is that you can at least copy and paste the same prompt over and just change the job descriptions. But yes, it was a lot more difficult prior to ChatGPT.
It's true. And more time consuming for sure. And also, we're gonna follow up this session not only with the recording, but with a few additional resources for you all. And one of those resources is going to be a guide to revising your resume with AI. That'll include prompts like the ones Nushi put into ChatGPT during this session. So if you didn't grab it or take a screenshot while Nushi was typing it out, don't worry about it. We're gonna send them to you. that you can always tweak or adjust to fit the specific questions you have. And then also, this is a plug. You can always book a call to meet with one of our career coaches if you don't want to do this entirely on your own. And they can walk through a session just like Nushi did today on John Smith's fake resume with your actual resume. Jeannie, do you mind if I tap you in just to voice over the rest of this slide for folks?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Katie. Thanks again, Nushi. And just a quick plug for coaching. You may even be lucky enough to sign up with Nushi and get a personalized one-on-one session to adjust your resume. So let's pause there. You can look for that recording tomorrow. I realize the format of this is might be a little strange, so we can't see and hear everyone, but please, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat and Nisha can take them before we close out. I'll give you all a minute to add them there. We'll wait one more minute for any to come through. Otherwise, we'll give you time back to start customizing your resumes for those roles at Writer or elsewhere and start applying.
Yeah, Elmont, I see your comment in the chat. We are more than happy to help. I would say the best way to get in touch with us is by using our Calendly link. And you can schedule whatever time works best for you with your career coach.
Yep, and we'll send that link through in the follow-up email. If you need to start from scratch, I mean, one other thing we can send through is just our template. It looks like John Smith's, and we'll let you fill in the blanks. So that might be a helpful starting point if you're really just like, I don't even know where to start. I can't customize because I don't have anything to customize. So we'll drop that into the follow-up email as well. Everyone wants one-on-one Nushi. Yes, yes. Sign up in that follow-up link and we'll get you set up. Everything is clear. That's great.
Elmont, we might try to connect with you separately to follow up on this, but don't worry, we'll get it sorted. Yes, absolutely. Prompting itself is an art.
And actually, while we have a minute, Elmont, I invited you to chat. If you want to unmute yourself, maybe clarify your question and we can just tackle it now.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, we hear you.
Yes, okay. The question is, all right, Amazon doing something different. I had a resume in LinkedIn. The resume was set up for when I was a level 3 at a different warehouse. So now that they changed the system, they took out my whole resume, and now you got to go in there and you got to type it inside their application. I'm not good at none of that, first of all. And that's where the whole issue is kicking in because now I'm like, I need the whole, like, they put every position I had from day one. I've been in 5 years. I've been in 3 different warehouses. They got all my positions lined up. I just can't do nothing with it. And that's where I'm trying to tell the other coach when he called me and we was on the phone for a whole hour. He's like, just do it and then come show. No, you're not understanding. I need you to walk it through with me so I can get it done then. Because I'm having a hard time with this new policy new thing they got. And it's been like that for over like 3, 4, like 5 months. Ever since I went to school with y'all, it was already in effect. I just never touched it, and I just knew at the end I was going to get help. And then when I get the help, he's like, "Oh, you got to fill it out, and then you give it to me, and I can revise it and proofread." And no, you're not understanding what I'm saying. It's not like I have one, but the one I have in LinkedIn, they kicked it out. They're not doing it that route no more. You can't upload nothing over there. I can't do none of that. That's why every time we doing this, I don't understand why nobody else is saying nothing about it. So they must already got an idea how to work the computer and do the bullets and all that. I ain't that savvy with it, so that's my issue. So I just want to share a screen and do it together. I just can't do it myself. That's where I'm stuck at. Once I get that in the way, I can get a job. Ain't got no problem sending people talking, sending whatever. But the problem coming with is getting that resume in the database.
Yeah. It sounds like stepping back and kind of starting with a coach, like building your resume together would be a more
Yeah.
helpful starting point. Is that right, Elma?
Yes, because I
Okay.
could say the positions, we could talk about it, and we could come up with a solution, then we put it in. But it's not the same as like you build me a template. I make that template, and I'm sending it to Amazon. Amazon ain't accepting it.
Got it.
Amazon is inside its own app and all that. You gotta put it in.
Cool. Okay. Thanks for clarifying. And that sounds good. I'll send you a note, Elmont, afterwards to get you scheduled and go at it with that approach. That makes
All
sense to
right.
me.
Is it
Thanks.
something? Thank you.
Any other questions coming through in the chat?
Yes.
Getting support, building out metrics, definitely. Nushi, any other you went through that pretty comprehensively, but what's been your experience working with coaches to like build out the metrics if they're struggling with that part?
Yeah, this is the question I think that proves to be a sticking point for all of my coaches so far, actually. So you're not alone, first of all. I think that certain roles at Amazon do have a metrics portal in their A to Z account, is what I think it's called, the internal employee dashboard. And some roles, unfortunately, don't. So I think the best thing to do is start off by logging in on a desktop device specifically, because I've noticed after speaking with some coaches, there's quite a few discrepancies between the mobile view that you'll get on your cell or your iPad, tablet, what have you, compared to logging in on a website. So that being said, see what you can find to start with, and then start thinking about times where you did something at work that caused a big change, which sounds very vague. But that's great actually, because that means that you'll have quite a few stories that you can put into a star format when you meet with your coach. And your coach can help you think through those specific stories with guiding questions. Usually the questions I ask are, what were things like before you made that change? What were things like after? Who was aware of the change? How did it impact the warehouse afterwards? How long did it impact the warehouse for? Was it just for the week, or was this maybe a new practice that they adopted forevermore? And so those types of details recruiters absolutely love. Which, again, that's what we're here for. It's daunting to do on your own. Sometimes you just need a fresh pair of eyes and guiding questions. So we're always here, always one Calendly booking away.
I'm seeing a few comments. Updating the work experience section in A to Z. Yes, we're aware that the Amazon system itself has undergone a few changes in terms of certainly the process assistant application assessment, whether you need a resume, whether it autofills or so I'm hearing some of that as well. And I think that's something we've built out some support materials on the process assistant application and assessment specifically, which is something else a coach can support you with if you're looking at roles internally at Amazon. So I'll just keep plugging coaching because the coach is really the one who can support one-on-one with whatever kind of questions you're looking at based on your goal.
I do see another question in the Q&A tab. A coach mentioned that past stream credentials should be put above a BS degree. Thoughts on that? So generally speaking, your resume should always be in reverse chronological order, whether it's the work experience section or the education experience. So if you did your bachelor's prior to doing path stream certificate, then I would list path stream first because you did it most recently. So it always goes from most recent experience or education to the oldest.
Great, thanks. We have one more minute. Any last burning questions before we close out? Okay. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see so many of you in the room and asking and answering questions for one another. And special shout out to Nushi for being here and sharing her expertise. And yeah, keep an eye out for the follow-up email with the recording, some of the resources, and the link to schedule with Coach. Thank you all. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.